If you would like a free newsletter on this or other subjects, just give us a call at Christian Answers. The phone number is area code 512-218-8022. That's 512-218-8022. Or you could email us at cdebater@aol.com. That's cdebater@aol.com.
Of these things, he's just got some motivational advice that's supposed to help you in this life, much like these ads you see on TV. And you buy into my advice, well then it's going to help you move into this nirvana stage, or it's going to help you move to this other level through your own efforts, through your own practices of my advice. So that is, to me, that's almost it's almost like salesmanship of a motivational product, rather than any kind of service to God in the sense of how we understand the word deity, where you would worship, venerate, serve God, try to live by God's moral laws. In this case, it's not that at all. It's a man giving his advice on what he thinks you ought to do with your life and how you should live your life. And then people, he's like the ultimate salesman, that, he's just happened to get more people calling his 1-800 number than other people. And they've masked around him, and it's become like a religion without God almost. It's like they made a religion out of
about it, yeah.
Yeah, they made a religion out of just doing self-motivational things that are supposed to help you to achieve some personal goals and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So I see that as completely alien, not only, of course, to biblical Christianity in one of the greatest senses, but then it's alien to most of your other pagan religions that are out there that have you serving gods or gods of one stripe or another. So this kind of puts it in a different level, and it kind of reminds me too of a debate I was listening to between an atheist and a Christian, and the point was brought up, well, how can you say that Christianity is the one true religion and all these other religions are false? And of course the Christian theologian made his arguments, and they were very plausible arguments, for the trustworthiness of the Bible, archaeological evidence, prophetic evidence. But then when they turned to the atheist to get his comment, he said, well, I think all religions are false, of course. But, if I were to pick any religion, even though I think it's false too, I would pick Buddhism. It's close. And I thought it was interesting that the atheist, looking at all the different religions, liked Buddhism.
Saw Buddhism as the closest one.
More than anything else he saw out there.
Okay.
So I see that kind of tying in, because it's easy to see how Buddhism can operate without a deity. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, a Vietnamese a friend of mine, when she was in Vietnam, she visited a Buddhist nun one time. And actually, I'm not sure if this was Vietnam, but when she visited a Buddhist nun, she was very impressed by that nun's lifestyle and dedication. And this was Theravada Buddhism, I should add. But anyway, when she left, she thought, the nun, everything she did, though, was for herself. Okay, and this kind of gets to some of the differences within Buddhism. There are actually at least 30 different schools of Buddhism. Some, like Nichiren and Shoshu in Japan and around World War II, were actually very militaristic and violent. And then some, like Zen Buddhism, is pretty much as much a philosophy. It might keep you from God, but they don't really say anything about God at all. And Mahayana Buddhism has been called Hinduized Buddhism. Now, in Theravada Buddhism, an individual person is like on their own. While in Mahayana Buddhism, they have these things that people that kind of correspond to saints called bodhisattvas that help man. Now in Christianity, we say that man is a child of God and that it's a God that saves man. Now in Theravada Buddhism, they're kind of going for wisdom and enlightenment are their key things, while Mahayana Buddhism is more compassion. And in Christianity, our three virtues you would say would be faith, hope, and love, with the greatest being love, in 1 Corinthians 13. Now the ideal saint in Theravada is called an arhat, and in Mahayana is called a bodhisattva. And of course Jesus is the ideal in Christianity. So Theravada says that Buddha is a saint, corresponds to a saint, but they don't worship Buddha. They don't have all these things. But Mahayana is really big on the idolatry. So it's like combining almost not quite the pagan Greco-Roman gods, but almost like the Hindu ideas of the Hindu pantheon, God worship inside there. While in Christianity, of course, there's only one inseparable God, but three distinct persons. Now, Mahayana criticizes Theravada as saying the Theravada they're not concerned about others, and the Theravada criticize the Mahayana by saying that they worship Buddha and others, and that's not what Buddha actually taught. So why do you call yourself a Buddhist if you don't follow Buddha's teachings? So. And there are other scriptures too, and the different Mahayana groups are probably over 5,000 books that are scriptures. And actually reading all of them, I don't get the impression is really very important for the typical Buddhist. Okay, so and there are many, many legends about Buddha that came up. And there's one thing that is about Christianity that is alien to Buddhism. And so when you share this with a Buddhist, you're going to have to go slow for them to get the concept. Some things can be verifiable or falsifiable. We can have evidence to show that Christianity is true. The Buddhists, from what I've seen, they never say, I have evidence Christianity is false or Buddhism is true. They don't think that there is any evidence. It's all just a matter of just sheer opinion. Okay, and it is pretty much in Buddhism, and they would think, well, all other religions, aren't they the same way? No, Christianity has evidence for the resurrection, the fulfilled prophecies, the witness of blood, and so Christianity, when you show archaeological evidence supporting this, the Buddhist is not so much he initially will disagree with it as he might not understand what's the evidence for. But the thing is that everything can't be true. There's toxic religion. There are wrong things that look good but lead you astray. And how do you know what's true and false? You have to look at the evidence from God. So Buddhists really have to kind of get over the hurdle of understanding that. Now, Buddhism is a major form of pantheism. And while some Buddhists think that you can be a Buddhist and be a Christian too, actually you can't. There's a big difference between saying there's only one God versus saying there are many gods, versus saying there's no God. It's sort of like if somebody said, I have one father, and somebody else said, no, you have many fathers, and somebody else said, you have no father. All three can't be right. So, you want one or many. Also, if you want to go to heaven, are there many ways to heaven? Well, it depends. If you want to go to God's house, you have to go to God's heaven His way. If you were on an island, and there was a bridge off the island, let's say a hurricane was coming, which road should you take? It doesn't really matter too much which road you take, as long as you want to stay on the island. But if you want to get off the island, you have to go over the bridge, and the bridge is Jesus Christ. And so, when they say that, it doesn't matter what you believe, because someone could become a Confucianist, a Taoist, and a Buddhist, and change and not have a big problem with that. As long as you don't want to get off the island, then I guess it doesn't matter. But you have to go through the bridge of Jesus to get off the island. So they have to realize that Jesus is not a way to God. Jesus is the one and only way to God. Okay, Jesus is not just a Son of God. Jesus is the only begotten Son of God. And there is not just a reading and a learning, but there's a commitment involved. In 2 Timothy 3:7, it talks about some ungodly people that says they're always learning, but never able to acknowledge the truth. Okay, it doesn't matter what you learn if it goes in one ear out the other. It doesn't matter what you learn if you don't believe it. What do you affirm? What do you acknowledge? What have you made a decision on? And that Buddhists, you have to get them to see that they have some important decisions to make. And actually not Buddhists, just Buddhists, but everybody. You have important decisions to make about life. Will you accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, or will you not?
If you like our YouTube channel, please subscribe by clicking on the subscribe button, and then by also clicking the bell above to get an automatic update whenever we produce another YouTube video for our See Answers TV channel. Please share our videos with your friends and relatives. May God bless you. Only one life will soon be passed. Only what is done for Christ will last. See related videos by tapping or clicking screens.